very familiar with her neighborhood. But one day she stopped at the stop sign and she wasn't even really sure where she was at.
Let's do this. It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome into the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. Head over there and subscribe. Maybe you're watching on Twitter, _ Jonathan Smith, if you want to follow me there. You can also watch the show there as well, or you can listen on that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. Also, have your phone ready. We're going to be giving out tickets to Holiday World later on in the show, probably around 11:20 or so, kind of somewhere around that time. Today's show was brought to you by Holiday World and Splash and Safari. If you want to make memories this summer, take your family to Holiday World. It is a grand time. I'm going at some point this summer. Can't wait. It's going to be a blast. Get your tickets to Holiday World and Splash and Safari today. Also, get your tickets to Game 4 of Pacers and Thunder. Because if the Pacers win that game, you thought it was a party after Game 3. Fireworks going off downtown, people jumping up and down, crapping snowballs. It was great. Just from start to finish, that is the best game we've seen the Pacers play so far. In these first three, that looked like a normal Indiana Pacers game. And it all starts with our guy, Tyrese Haliburton, finally getting going, finally being aggressive. He was amazing because he was aggressive from the moment the ball went up. He did everything that you expect for Tyrese Haliburton to do. He shot it well, 9 of 17 from the floor. He had 11 assists, and don't worry, I'm going to victory lap on that just a little bit. Okay, he was great all night. He did everything that you expect him to do. He did turn the basketball over 4 times, which I'm sure is going to bother some people, but Tyrese Haliburton is an aggressive passer. There are some guys who don't turn the basketball over because they only make safe passes. That is not Tyrese Haliburton, right? He makes aggressive, tough passes, and when you play against a defense as good as Oklahoma City's, you're going to have stretches and moments where you turn the basketball over. Not because the pass is necessarily bad, but more so because the Thunder defense is good. Here is Coach Carlisle after the game talking about Tyrese Haliburton and his impact and just how good he was from start to finish.
Yeah, terrific. I mean, he look at every game, you're going to have to make adjustments against this defense. I mean, there's just going to be different looks. You're going to have different high-level defenders on you. You're going to see some different coverage stuff. It's going to be constantly changing. And so I thought his approach tonight was exactly what it needed to be, a combination of spatial awareness and aggression and, a real good feel for aggression to score, along with getting his teammates involved at the right times. And so, he was terrific.
Rick Carlisle, Pacers head coach, right there talking about Tyrese Haliburton and just how big of an impact he had and how aggressive he was from the jump. Ross Campbell paying attention to the most important thing in the game as he chimes in the YouTube chat. A lot more feet in the paint last night. It wasn't just a Tyrese Haliburton thing either. It was everybody. McConnell was in the paint. Benedict Mathurin cutting through the bucket and getting layups. But of course, Tyrese Haliburton getting into the lane was a big deal. Of the 17 shots that Tyrese Haliburton took, only 8 of them were threes. That's a good number for him because he's a career 39% three-point shooter. I don't mind it when half of his shots come from three because he's a great shooter, and he made 4 of them last night. He had it rolling. And all of the threes that he took, it didn't feel like he was taking them just because he hadn't shot in a while. Every three-pointer that he took was in rhythm, and he got it rolling because he got established early. This was the first game of the series where Tyrese Haliburton consistently had rhythm. Every shot he took, except for maybe the first one where he took that weird pull-up jumper that wasn't really a pull-up jumper. He was kind of turning. It was kind of awkward looking. But after that one, every shot he took looked normal. He started 2 of 3 from the floor. After he misses that weird foul line jumper, he then comes down and he hits a floater. And then he hits his first 3, one that he stepped into. When you start that well, it's easier to want to take more shots. It's easy to maintain the level of aggressiveness that we saw from Tyrese Haliburton last night. I loved his shot chart. I talk about, like, when Haliburton plays well, it's when he's taking shots from all 3 levels. There are some nights where he looks like 2015 James Harden, where every shot's either a 3 or a layup. And then there's other nights where he looks like Steph Curry, where 12 of his 15 shots come from 3. That's not good either. He's a talented scorer who can score from all 3 levels. So he took 8 threes, of which he was 4 of 8. He took 5 mid-range jumpers, of which he was 2 of 5. He took 4 shots in the paint, with which he was 3 of 4. It was a 3-level scoring night from superstar Tyrese Haliburton. By the way, the reason, I can't believe I'm about to say what I'm about to say, the reason why the Stephen A. Smiths and the Kendrick Perkins of the world do the whole Tyrese Haliburton, you have to step up thing, is because, like, he has nights like this where he's just aggressive. And when he's aggressive, this Pacers offense is significantly better than when he's not. And then he'll have games like game 2 where he just doesn't want to take shots. And because he was aggressive from the opening tip, he played his best game of the series. On yesterday's show, by the way, downtown at the District Tap, that's where I was. That's why there was no live stream. Make sure you download that Indie Sports Ticket app. That way you can listen to the show whenever I'm not in studio. First and foremost, the District Tap's amazing. I had some, like, Moondrops cocktails. I had this old-fashioned, delicious, fantastic. Big thank you to Moondrops for setting it up for us to go downtown and do the show there. But on yesterday's show, I said the most important number for the Pacers was going to be Tyrese Haliburton's assist number. I said if Tyrese Haliburton had 10 assists or more, then the Pacers would win. I said that if he had 8 or more, then the game would be competitive. He had 11. And every part of his game was open. When Tyrese Haliburton has 10 assists or more, it points to the Indiana Pacers doing the important things that make the Indiana Pacers the Indiana Pacers. It points to them being able to get out and run. They did that last night. That was the fastest-paced game of the series. They even got off the, oh crap, the Thunder just got a layup. Let's get it into Haliburton. Let's watch him throw it 40 feet up the floor to Pascal Siakam, who then lays it in 4 seconds later. They even pulled off one of those. The game was up and down, and you can see it in the Tyrese Haliburton assist numbers. Tyrese Haliburton having 10 assists or more also points to him being aggressive and breaking the paint. That was the biggest thing that happened last night. Game 2, the Pacers, 40 of their 82 shots came from 3. That did not happen last night. 27 of their 85 shots came from 3 last night. You know why? Because they were able to get to the rim and make layups. I love three-point shooting. Like, when the show's over today, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to get a lift in, and I'm going to get shots up. And guess what? 90% of them are going to be threes because that's way more fun than taking a layup. With that being said, layups are nice. They're easy. And you're going to make way more of them. And so, he was aggressive. He got into the paint. He was able to drive and kick. He was able to, drop it off to cutters. And for the first time in the series, he was able to break the paint all game. And obviously, it also points to the Pacers role players making shots. And look, this is the bench game for the Pacers. Game 2 was the bench game for the Thunder with Alex Caruso and Aaron Wiggins combining for 38 points. Last night was the bench game for the Indiana Pacers. And, I talked a little bit about their ability to get layups. They shot 52% from the floor in Game 3. They only shot 33% from 3. But by the way, I thought they got a ton of good looks. They just didn't go down. That happens sometimes. But if you had told me before the game that the Pacers would only shoot 33% from 3 and the Thunder would shoot 45% from 3, then I would have chalked this game up to a blowout. That didn't happen, though, because they broke the paint so often and they were able to generate so many layups, so many more easy shots. Okay, 27 of their 85 shots came from 3. That is a much better ratio than 40 to 82. And it only happened because Tyrese Haliburton and TJ McConnell were able to operate with both feet in that blue area pretty much all night long. It was so great to see. And for Tyrese Haliburton, he was awesome last night. And it wasn't just the offense. It wasn't just the fact that he made 4 threes. Like, it felt like all 4 of them were very timely. It wasn't just because he had 11 assists. He was awesome because he not only did that on offense, but defensively. And on the glass, he was great. He had 9 rebounds. 8 of them were defensive. And that, to me, is a large part of why they were able to get out and run. Because he was able to grab the rebound, and he could just go. Because the Thunder, they are pot committed to getting back on defense when shots go up. They are. Like they are not really crashing the offensive glass. They want to keep the Pacers from running. And so when Siakam or Miles Turner or Obi Toppin grab the rebound, it takes 2 seconds to find Tyrese Haliburton or Andrew Nembhard to then bring the ball up and push the pace. But when Haliburton grabs it, you're saving yourself 2 seconds and you can just go. And that, to me, was a major part of the game. Hopefully Tyrese Haliburton can continue to rebound well throughout the rest of this series. Okay, and you know, when the Pacers are playing fast, the ball has life. And when the ball has life, it becomes easier to score. Okay, when he is rebounding the basketball, Tyrese Haliburton, the Pacers' offense is just better. He had 1 offensive rebound, and it was maybe my favorite play of the night from him. It's either this or a different play that I'm going to talk about here in a second. Pacers are up by 3, and even though this was by far the best night the Pacers have had offensively, I would argue that it is not only the best night I've seen the Pacers have offensively, but it was also what's a good word? It was also it's the most comfortable I've seen an offense all playoffs long against this Thunder defense. Like, it was just a very impressive offensive performance from a really good offensive basketball team in the Indiana Pacers. But the Thunder, they still had possessions where they played great defense because they are a great defensive team, the best defensive team we've seen since the 2004 Detroit Pistons. And it's late in the game. Pacers are up by 3. Thunder are playing great defense. They get Shai Gilgeous-Alexander switched onto Haliburton, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander plays great defense. Haliburton winds up in the corner, and he shoots a super high arcing 3 because he's got to get it off over Shai, and he releases the ball because the shot clock is about to run out. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander just stands there. Job's done. Haliburton breaks for the offensive rebound. No, he knew exactly where it was going. He finds it, grabs it, finds Nembhard, who then hits a mid-range jumper over Chet Holmgren to put the Pacers up by 5. That was a huge play. It extended the lead. And to me, I think it fully showed, or it's a great example of how much effort and intensity Tyrese Haliburton played with all night, even when he was tired. Zach Gray, who's going to come on tomorrow and give you another winning bet. The dude's so hot right now. He texted me last night, and he mentioned how the players look gassed, and I didn't think this is in late third, early fourth quarter, and I didn't think that everyone looked gassed. I thought that the stars looked gassed because the game was up and down, and in that moment, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's tired, Tyrese Haliburton's tired. Tyrese Haliburton didn't care. He grabbed that offensive rebound, and that was a big play in allowing for the Pacers to win that game. And it wasn't just the rebounding and the offense from Tyrese Haliburton. I thought the defense that he played was nothing short of excellent. He is so smart. And look, if you're a smart basketball player, you can be a good defender. He picked off 2 passes that led to easy buckets. His hands were all over the place. He only had 2 steals, but it felt like he had a lot more just because of how active he was defensively. He was in the passing lanes. When he got switched onto Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or Jalen Williams, he competed his butt off. He just competed on that end of the floor at an incredibly high level. And when you're 6'6" and you're smart and you know where to be and you just try hard, then you're going to have good defensive possessions. He has come such a long way from last year to this year in terms of his ability to play defense, and that's what great players do, right? They find ways to get better. Tyrese Haliburton's defensive improvement from last year to this year is why the Pacers are 2 wins away from being NBA champions and what would be one of the biggest upsets in the history of the sport, in the history of the finals. They were plus 500 coming into this series. You know, when you go through and you run through all the quote-unquote experts and their predictions, mine included, I took the Thunder in 6. To be fair, a lot of the experts, they took the Thunder in 5. They didn't give the Pacers any sort of chance to win this series, but the Pacers did what good teams do. They got better as the year progressed. They got better from last year to this year, and you can really see it on defense. Now, they're 2 wins away. That's a lot against this Oklahoma City Thunder team. They need to win game 4. Going back to Oklahoma City, tied 2-2, man, that's tough because then it's best 2 out of 3 with only one home game against a better team. They need to go back to Oklahoma City up 3-1. If they can win Friday night, that'll be huge. It'll be tough, though, because the Thunder haven't lost back-to-back games since April when they were resting players to get ready for the playoffs. Before that, they hadn't lost back-to-back games since November. Game 4 is going to be so intense because both teams, I think, are going to understand the importance of that game. And last night, I thought both teams did. That was the best game we've gotten so far. It just from start to finish. Obviously, game 1 was a lot more exciting at the end, but from start to finish, man, like that game was incredibly intense, and it was so much fun to watch. In part because the Pacers just looked normal. Like, this is an Oklahoma City Thunder defense that has just made life difficult on everyone that they've played. I went through the numbers yesterday, and I talked about how, like, when you look at Anthony Edwards' regular season numbers compared to his numbers against the Thunder in the playoffs, they drop pretty significantly. I talked about how when you look at Nikola Jokic's numbers from the regular season compared to what he did against the Thunder in the playoffs, his numbers dropped pretty significantly. The Thunder have done an excellent job at making teams uncomfortable. And last night was the most comfortable I've seen an offense look against this Oklahoma City Thunder defense all year. All year. It's the most comfortable I've seen an offense look against this Thunder defense. And I'm going to tell you why the Pacers were so comfortable when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
It may, one day, be a must-listen for sports enthusiasts.
Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt.
Uh-oh. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in. Big thanks to Holiday World and Splash and Safari as well. We're giving away tickets here in about an hour, so make sure you're tuned in here in about an hour and get ready to dial that number. Big congrats to Ross Campbell, who won the tickets yesterday. Now, Pacers, bigger congratulations to them for winning that game last night, going up 3-1 in the series 2-1 with a chance to go up 3-1 on Friday night. I hope they do. I do think that it is in the cards for them. I love this Pacers team, right? They have done just such an incredible job bouncing back, right? Like they haven't lost back-to-back games at all in these playoffs. But guess what? Neither have the Thunder. So Friday night is going to be just an absolute battle. It's going to be great. And it's no secret how good of a defensive team the Oklahoma City Thunder are. Okay, I've said it a lot throughout the finals, even before the finals, that they are the best defense the NBA has seen since the 2004 Detroit Pistons. They make teams so uncomfortable, except for last night. That is the most comfortable I've seen a team against the Thunder all year. The Pacers offense just looked normal. It looked normal. Like everything that they did against the Thunder, I had seen them do against the Bucks and the Cavaliers and the New York Knicks. It looked normal. Guys moving, a lot of dribble handoffs, screens, backdoor cuts, good passes. Tyrese Haliburton making skip passes to the opposite corner. I talked about how, in that opening segment, how my favorite Tyrese Haliburton play of the night was the one offensive rebound that he grabbed. Second favorite play, maybe my favorite play, Pacers are up 5. It's like 102 to 107. And the Pacers run this double ball screen action for Tyrese Haliburton. And he comes off of them. And you got Miles Turner running to the rim, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander cheats. He takes like 2 steps towards Miles Turner, ready to come over and swipe the basketball away. Tyrese Haliburton jumps. He's on the left wing. Jumps, looks at Miles Turner. SGA takes another step. He then makes this skip pass to Aaron Nesmith, who didn't have a great night, fouled a lot, didn't make many shots. Makes this perfect skip pass. Aaron Nesmith catches it in the right corner. Didn't move his hands. Like he was, like sitting in a shooting position. And Haliburton just puts it right on his chest. And Aaron Nesmith catches it. And he goes up and he laces it. Pacers go up by 8. And when he hit that shot, there was, I think, a little over a minute left to go. Maybe there were 2 minutes left. And the game felt not over, but you just knew that was a big shot because, overcoming 8 points and like a minute and a half with how well the Pacers offense was rolling. You knew that was going to be a very tall order for the Oklahoma City Thunder. That is the most comfortable I've seen an offense look against the Thunder, definitely in these playoffs. TJ McConnell is just doing TJ McConnell things. He's just running along the baseline, hitting cutters, and Pascal Siakam's, posting up smaller players after, whenever he can, which was pretty often because the Thunder don't have a good matchup for him. The Pacers are running after every miss, every make. They got, a layup 3 seconds after a Thunder make because Pascal Siakam's like a marathon runner. Like he just doesn't stop running. It's incredible to watch. And that is, once again, the most normal I've seen an offense look against the Thunder all year. The Thunder just take teams out of whatever they want to do on defense, right? The Grizzlies. They lost by 51 in game 1 of that series against the Thunder because the Thunder just took them out of their normal offense. They did the same thing to the Nuggets in the second round. Like so much of the Nuggets offense was Nikola Jokic having to do something that only Nikola Jokic can do in order to score. It's part of why Nikola Jokic's assist numbers got cut in half, nearly. Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle were overwhelmed that entire series against the Thunder. The first two games of this Pacers series, of the NBA Finals, the Pacers looked out of sorts. The pressure, both on and off the ball, took the Pacers out of their rhythm. Last night, that didn't happen at all. And if their offense continues to look like that, and they continue to score around 116 points, I told you before the series started, the magic number was 110. If the Pacers can get to 110 points or more, then I'm going to feel pretty great about their chances of winning whatever game it is. In game one, they got to 111, and they won. Game two, they got to 107, and they lost. Game three, last night, they get to 116, and they win. The offense looked good. Now, the Thunder are going to adjust. Mark Dagnall is an excellent head coach. He's going to have a counter to how the Pacers defended them and how the Pacers kind of cut them up offensively. You know, cutters running everywhere. They played with pace for the first time, really, in the series. It was an impressive offensive game from everyone that stepped on the floor, but it obviously started with Tyrese Haliburton because he is the engine. And look, if he's going to, go for 21 and 11 again, then the Pacers are probably going to win that game. He's the guy that gets everything started, and hopefully, he's able to get it started again in game 4. And hopefully the Pacers continue to give Pascal Siakam the basketball. I thought Pascal Siakam was great last night. He did everything. Most importantly, though, they got him going early. Okay, he got a touch against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I think on the Pacers' second possession. And he posts him up, and he scores. That happened 2 more times. Not against SGA, but he got 3 buckets, Pascal Siakam did, off mismatches in the first 3 minutes of the game. First possession, it was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The second time, it was Cason Wallace. And the third time, it was Lou Dort. He scored the Pacers' first 6 points, and they all came off of him posting up smaller defenders, working it down to like 12 feet away from the basket or closer and scoring. They looked for him early, and he got them going early. I like how they established him. He had 7 points on 3 of 5 shooting in that first quarter. And it didn't just stop after the first quarter. They kept giving him the basketball. I've got a lot of stuff on TJ McConnell and Benedict Mathurin. But that second quarter run happened in part because they kept Pascal Siakam involved in the offense. Okay, he is vital to that team on both ends of the floor. Okay, like he has to be good. Most importantly, I think that the most important stretch of all these games is in the second quarter, at the start when the Thunder are sitting Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the Pacers are sitting Tyrese Haliburton. And it's Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren taking on Pascal Siakam, Miles Turner, and 3 bench guys. 2 of those guys are always McConnell and Mathurin, and Obi Toppin is usually the third. Okay? And then that middle stretch there in the second quarter, in game 2, that is the stretch where the Thunder took the lead and they never gave it back. Last night, the Pacers went on an 11-2 run at one point during that stretch. The Pacers were down at the end of the first quarter, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander got off to a bad start, only 6 points at the end of the first quarter. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, man. Can't defend Shai Gilgeous-Alexander any better than that, and the Pacers are losing. That is not great. But then the second quarter starts, and they go on that run, and they take the lead back because of the bench unit, and most importantly, Pascal Siakam. They kept him involved. Like, it was a lot of TJ McConnell. It was a lot of Benedict Mathurin. But Pascal Siakam was touching the basketball consistently in those stretches. And there's 2 guys for the Pacers that the Thunder consistently react to. And that is Pascal Siakam and Tyrese Haliburton. One of those 2 guys has to consistently touch the basketball time and time again. I thought that they did a really good job of keeping him engaged when Tyrese Haliburton was off the floor. Siakam finished the night with 21 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and a block. The dude was everywhere. Oh, and he was 8 of 14 shooting. The dude just kept running. It is amazing what happens when you get your stars going early, because that's really what I think one of the differences in the game was. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander got off to a really slow start. Chet Holmgren didn't, but he slowed down right after that, 13-point first quarter. Siakam got off to a really good start. Tyrese Haliburton got off to a really good start. And they just never stopped. It was really impressive. Pascal Siakam finished the night at +8. He did everything that you want for Pascal Siakam to do. He posted up. He took advantage of mismatches. He made smart passes. He didn't turn the ball over. 0 turnovers on the night. He was amazing. And he can do that every night. If the Pacers continue to look to get him involved in the offense, I thought the officiating last night was much better. More specifically, they actually called Alex Caruso for fouls when he fouled Pascal Siakam. That was, I think, an underlying important part of the game last night. If the Pacers continue to get him the basketball, then he's going to continue, Pascal Siakam, to be a major, major key in this series. And, of course, one of the other big keys of the series is something that I've talked about consistently. I've done it after every Pacer playoff game because it's a question that has to be answered every night when the Pacers walk out onto the floor. Who's the third guy? Who's the, not role player, because that's not really the right word, but who's the non-star? Who's the guy not named Tyrese Haliburton or Pascal Siakam that's going to make a big impact? In game 1, it was Obi Toppin or Andrew Nembhard, right? Whoever you want to argue for, I would argue for Andrew Nembhard in that game, but hey, that's fine. Game 2, it was nobody. Last night, it's one of 2 guys. One of 2. It's Benedict Mathurin, which I think is going to be the consensus opinion, or it's TJ McConnell, who, is the first player in the history of the NBA Finals, or the first guy since 1974 to have 10 points, 5 assists, and 5 steals off the bench. You could argue for either one of them. They were both amazing. They were why the Pacers went on that run in the second quarter to take the lead. They both made big plays down the stretch as well in that second half. And Coach Carlisle was asked after the game about those 2 guys and their impact and just how they're able to stay ready despite neither one of them playing in that first quarter. I've got that audio for you when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
The best takes. Maybe. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube. Indy Sports Ticket, head over there and subscribe, hop in the chat to be part of the conversation. Maybe you're listening on that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps, and you can also watch the show on X as well, __ Jonathan Smith, to watch the show there and keep the show on. 11:20, we're going to give away some tickets to Holiday World and Splash and Safari. You want them, it's a great time, and yeah, you should go because it's a good time. And if you can go for free, that makes it even better. Indiana, big win last night over the Oklahoma City Thunder to take a 2-1 series lead, which is a good thing. I do have some bad news. Under the 2-2-1-1-1-1-1 format, or 2-2-1-1-1 format, the lower seed has never won the NBA Finals, went up 2-1, which is interesting. It's interesting. Pacers can make a little bit of history if they can just keep it rolling. Now, I ask this question after every single Pacers game. Who is the third guy? Who's the third guy for the Pacers? Was it, and last night, you really have two options. Was it Benedict Mathurin or was it TJ McConnell, right? Because those two guys off the bench were nothing short of spectacular. Everything that you wanted Benedict Mathurin to do, he did. Everything you want TJ McConnell to do, he did. Let's start with Mathurin. I think that's going to be the consensus opinion for tonight. He scored 27 points off the bench on 9 of 12 shooting. He had a big three to give the Pacers the lead with 8 minutes to go. Really tough. Comes off the screen. Chet Holmgren, you better step up, Chet, or I'm going to pull this three in your face and I'm going to lace it, and we're going to go up 2. Big shot from a dude that simply isn't scared of anything. He was outstanding. You could also argue for TJ McConnell. The Energizer Bunny was in full effect last night, coming in, stealing inbound passes, not 1, not 2, but 3 times. He was incredible. And Coach Carlisle was asked after the game. This is the first question he was asked after the game. It was about McConnell and Mathurin and their impacts. Here's what the Pacers head coach had to say.
Yeah, I mean, those guys were tremendous, and TJ just brought a competitive will to the game. Mathurin jumped in there and immediately was aggressive and got the ball in the basket. And, look, this is the kind of team that we are. We need everybody to be ready. It's not always going to be exactly the same guys that are stepping up with scoring and stuff like that. But, this is how we got to do it. And we got to do it as a team. And we got to make it as hard as possible on them.
Coach Carlisle right there talking about just being Coach Carlisle. It's about the team, all that kind of stuff. He didn't want to call TJ McConnell the Great White Hope. That's what Tyrese Haliburton called him in his press conference. But I want to start with Benedict Mathurin because I do think that if I had to give out an official third guy award, it would go to him. He was their leading scorer. I mean, come on. He did everything. He made some mid-range jumpers. He drew fouls. He was 7 of 8 from the foul line. He actually took more free throws than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander did. He made more free throws than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander took. Okay, he finished at the rim. He was 2 of 3 from 3. Like, he did everything. And, like, so many of his points came within the flow of the offense, cutting through the rim. And, I mean, he was just really, really good. What a performance from a 22-year-old in his first playoff run. And I thought the most impressive thing from Benedict Mathurin last night was actually something that he never did. He never took a heat check. He never took a heat check. And he had every right to. Like, if he'd pulled up from 28 feet, I wouldn't have blamed him. Like, the dude was playing so well. He never took a heat check. He never isolated and took 12 dribbles and got into like a step back. He never did that. That is a major sign of growth from him. Every shot he took was in control. And by the way, I hate the heat check, especially in the NBA Finals when every possession matters, because when you take a heat check, you're wasting that possession unless it goes in. He never did it. He scored off cutting to the rim, like within the flow of the offense. Like that is something that he's had to learn to do throughout his time here with the Pacers. He was so impressive on offense, and then defensively, he's picking up full court, harassing dudes. The bench for the Pacers got crushed in game 2. And they flipped that script last night. Pacers bench outscored the Thunder's bench 49-18. If that happens 2 more times, then the Pacers are going to be your NBA champions. And the bench unit was led by Benedict Mathurin. He was their third guy last night. But I have to talk about TJ McConnell because I thought he was every bit as impactful as Benedict Mathurin was last night. But before I do, Coach Carlisle was asked about Mathurin and how last year's playoff run, where he didn't get to play because he tore his labrum in his shoulder, he was asked how that kind of impacted Mathurin and if he met with Mathurin during kind of the playoff run last year. And Coach Carlisle ends up telling this really interesting story about Benedict Mathurin and how he handled not playing in the playoffs last year due to that torn labrum.
Yeah, I mean, he was with the team. He just wasn't playing. And he took a lot of notes, a lot of mental notes, and he may have written some things down, but I do know that, after he sustained the injury, it was either in February or early March. You can order these calendars that start on a specific day and then they count days. And so, I think it was Dr. Elatraj did the surgery. And so there was a calendar that was sitting in our training room and every day he would come in and take one off. And he was counting the days down to being cleared and sometime in August and then being able to begin training camp. It began 5-on-5 with our guys in September, and then to begin training camp, really with his eyes firmly set on an opportunity in the playoffs. And so, he's put in a lot of work to be ready for these moments. And tonight he was an absolute major factor.
Coach Carlisle right there talking about Benedict Mathurin and the whole calendar thing, counting down to when he was going to get to play again, and all this kind of stuff. And it's a great story. And Coach Carlisle is right. Like that, he's gotten so much better from last year to this year and even over the course of the season. And he's got this ability to just always be locked in. He's always fully engaged. And I think that story of the calendar and taking notes during the playoffs last year points to that. He had a quote after the game where he's sitting with Scott Van Pelt, and Scott Van Pelt's like, bro, like you just had 27 points in the finals. Like you can't even like smile. He goes, and he basically says like, I'll be happy when I'm holding the trophy. The dude's always locked in. The effort's always been there. And he's a real dog. And so is TJ McConnell. TJ McConnell, first bench player to ever have 10 points, 5 assists, and 5 steals in the NBA Finals since 1974. He was amazing. Like last night was filled with Pacer players doing all of the things that they do well. Benedict Mathurin scoring off the bench. Haliburton breaking the paint, getting his teammates involved in scoring. Pascal Siakam posting up smaller players. Miles Turner defending the rim. Just so on and so forth. Every guy that played for the Pacers last night just did the thing that they're good at. And TJ McConnell did the things that he was good at. He ran the baseline incredibly well. He is a great interior passer, and he found so many guys cutting around the basket. But his biggest impact was his energy, as it always is. Here is Tyrese Haliburton after the game talking about TJ McConnell and his impact on the game.
Yeah, I think his energy is unbelievable. You guys know he's definitely a crowd favorite. I joke with him. I call him the Great White Hope. He does a great job of bringing energy in this building, and I think people feed off that. And he had a couple unbelievable steals. I think in the series like this, what's so important is the margins. You got to win in the margins. It's it's not necessarily who can make the most shots or anything. He's taking care of the ball, rebounding, little things like that. I thought he does a great job of just giving us energy plays consistently, and getting downhill and operating. I mean, nobody operates on the baseline like that guy, so I thought he did a great job of consistently getting there and just making hustle play after hustle play, and sticking with it. And I thought we did a great job of just feeding off of what he was doing. He's been like a big brother to me since I've gotten here. And, a guy, you look at TJ McConnell and like his story is unbelievable, so, I just enjoy being able to play alongside him, and the energy he gives his teammates and this building is a lot of fun.
Tyrese Haliburton right there talking about TJ McConnell and just the energy that he brings. And I thought he really brought it on defense. He's just infectious on that end of the floor. 5 steals on the night. 3 of them were off the inbound pass. Like, you would think that after it happened once, the Thunder would be like, hey, we should probably watch out for TJ McConnell and his ability to steal these inbound passes. But no, they did not do that. And he ended up stealing the ball 2 more times. He's always locked in on everything that's going on. He doesn't take a second off. And you have to be that way in the NBA Finals. And he took advantage of these lackadaisical going through the motion passes from the Oklahoma City Thunder. And it felt like every steal was in a big spot. He gets the first one at the start of the second quarter. He finds Benedict Mathurin. He gets a layup, and all of a sudden Mathurin starts off on a really good note. The second one didn't lead to a score. But in the fourth quarter, he did it again. The Pacers are down 90-95, and they hit a 3. And also it's 95-93. Alex Caruso goes to make the inbound pass. TJ McConnell just reaches up in the air, grabs it, lays it in. All of a sudden, in like 4 seconds, the Pacers have scored 5 points, and the game is tied. And that play ignited the rest of the Pacers team and the rest of this Pacers crowd. He scored, TJ McConnell did, he facilitated, he defended, and he pushed the pace. That is a part of this that hasn't been talked about enough when it comes to TJ McConnell and the impact that he had on the game. It does happen often enough, so I will call it a trend. There's this trend on the Pacers where when Tyrese Haliburton goes to the bench, the Pacers slow down a bit. TJ McConnell came in last night, and he made sure that did not happen. He was every bit as important to the Pacers' win last night as Benedict Mathurin was, pushing the pace, forcing turnovers, finishing well, hitting his little pull-up jumper going right that looks really awkward and feels like it's never going to get over the front of the rim, but then it does, and then it goes in. Stealing the basketball away, just playing really good defense and just being locked into every second of everything that's going on. He was awesome last night. Benedict Mathurin was awesome last night. Obi Toppin had a really good night as well, and he's going to have to continue to be good because there's minutes where the Pacers go small, and they've got Obi Toppin and Siakam on the floor together, and they're a little bit smaller. And in those minutes, Obi Toppin has to be really good. And he was last night. He played 28 minutes off the bench. He was plus 18. He had 8 points. He was 4 of 8 from the field. He had 6 rebounds. He had 2 blocks as well. He only turned the basketball over once. He got a little out of control. He grabbed a rebound, and he tried to take it coast to coast. It didn't go well at all. But, he didn't do it again, right? He made one mistake, and he didn't make it again. 8 points, 6 rebounds, really good defense, a big-time put-back dunk as well late in that game where his elbows are above the rim. What a game. He was awesome as well. Okay, but obviously the 2 headline bench players are McConnell and Mathurin. If they continue to play that well, then the Pacers are going to have a great chance to win this series. Okay, they lost in game 2 because Mathurin and McConnell weren't very good in the second quarter and during that stretch with Tyrese Haliburton on the bench. Last night, they were awesome, and it's a large part of why they won that game. Okay, McConnell was a pest, and he was facilitating and scoring, and Benedict Mathurin was scoring the basketball, and Siakam was involved on both ends in that important second quarter stretch. The last role player I want to mention played 18 minutes, and it's Ben Shepherd. Ben Shepherd last night couldn't have played any better. And you look at his stat line, it's like 4 points and 2 rebounds and 2 steals in 18 minutes. Like, really? Like, that's talking about that guy? Yeah. That guy was so good and so important. He gave them a really good 18 minutes. Nembhard and Nesmith both got into early foul trouble, and he just went in, and he was Ben Shepherd, and he was tough, and he was gritty, and he got up underneath Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and he got up underneath Jalen Williams, and he's forcing turnovers, and he didn't make a three, but he attacked closeouts so well. Like, it was weird. He didn't do that very much in the regular season. He had like a little mid-range jumper. He had one where he's like going left, and he has this really awkward finish over Isaiah Hartenstein. And it was a good game from him last night as well. And I wanted to make sure that I mentioned him because he was super important in those minutes when Andrew Nembhard and Aaron Nesmith were dealing with foul trouble, and he had to take on the assignment of defending either Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or Jalen Williams. He was really good in those spots last night, and the Pacers need him because that game was up and down, and guys looked tired, and he didn't. He was really, really good off the bench as well. There were other guys who were important and impactful, and I've just got a million other things to get to. We have to talk about Myles Turner. We had to talk about him. It was a really rough first 42 minutes from him. But those final 6, he was awesome. Andrew Nembhard, didn't score a ton, but he was really good. The defense on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was outstanding. And last night was a game that the Pacers had to win. We're going to get to all of that when we come back at 11 o'clock. At 11:20, we're giving away tickets to Holiday World and Splash and Safari, so make sure you're tuned in at around 11:20 for your chance to win those tickets. We'll be back with more thoughts on the Pacers' win over the Thunder last night here in about 4 minutes.
Lowe's.com/same-day delivery for details.
Let's do this. It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket, from the head over there and subscribe. Maybe you're watching on X_Jonathan Smith to follow me there and watch the show there. Maybe you're listening on that Indy Sports Ticket app. No matter how you're listening, it is always greatly appreciated. And keep listening, because here in about 20 minutes, I'm going to be giving away some tickets to Holiday World and Splash In Safari, proud sponsor of today's show. You need to go. It's a great time down there at good old Holiday World. Go make some memories with your family. Ride roller coasters, drink free soda, use the free sunscreen. It's a great time. Now, almost as good a time as what the Pacers had last night. Great game from them. So many guys were important and influential in that win. Obviously, Tyrese Haliburton was. Obviously Mathurin and McConnell off the bench had their moments where they were super impactful, but there were some other guys who their box score numbers don't jump off the page at you. It doesn't. Like, they don't. Guys like Miles Turner, Andrew Nembhard, and I think those are really the only two guys who I thought were super impactful, but their box score numbers wouldn't really show that. And it was both really on the defensive end of the floor. Miles Turner wasn't very good for a lot of the game. And it was to a point where this is what I wrote down in my notes during the game. So I cut it up into these different sections, and I have a section like just for my Haliburton notes, just for my Siakam notes. And then I have a third guy section, and it's all of the guys who could end up being that third most important player for the Pacers. And I wrote this down under that third guy section. I wrote down, quote, "It's not Miles Turner. He's 1 of 8 to start for only 3 points." That's what I wrote. And he turned it around in that fourth quarter. He did. He figured it out, and he was really big down the stretch defending Chet Holmgren. Coach Carlisle was asked about Miles Turner and his ability to respond well in the fourth quarter. We learned that Miles Turner's sick in this little clip, and we also learned that this dude is really resilient and was really big when the Pacers needed him to be.
Well, Miles is under the weather, and he may not even be with us tomorrow. He just hasn't been feeling well the last couple of days. It was affecting his wind. He won't bring it up, but I think it's just appropriate to mention that he is working through something, some kind of a cold or whatever, but he's just not feeling himself. So, we'll see where things are tomorrow with him. But I thought he did a great job of just taking a couple of deep breaths in the third quarter and just doing a reset and coming back in there ready. And that's what a lot of this is. You have to be super resilient. Things happen, in milliseconds. I mean, these guys go by you, they're dunking the ball, they're doing this, they're doing that. I mean, it's there's a lot going on.
Coach Carlisle right there talking about Miles Turner down the stretch and how he's sick and how he's, battling through it and all this kind of stuff. And look, man, the first 42 minutes of that game, Miles Turner minutes were not very good. But the final 6 minutes of the fourth quarter, he turned it around. And he was really impactful. In the final 6 minutes of the game, he had 2 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist, and he had 3 blocks on Chet Holmgren. His defense at the rim late in that game was so important for the Pacers to win. And he got off to an awful start. I guess Chet Holmgren had 13 points in the first quarter. And I think people saw that and they're like, oh, Miles Turner isn't playing very well. I feel like all of Chet Holmgren's buckets came running to the rim. Like, it wasn't like he was isolating Miles Turner. He wasn't really posting him up or going by him. And I don't know. Like, I thought a lot of Holmgren's points came off of him just running the floor really well. But the Pacers put a stop to that. After that 13-point first quarter, Chet Holmgren only scored 7 points after that. He did. Miles Turner responded well after a bad start. You know, he was just more engaged defensively. I do think part of why he struggled is because he's sick. Sadly, Miles Turner didn't have his version of the Michael Jordan flu game. You know, the first 42 minutes of last night were brutal, but he figured it out late. He made important plays down the stretch, and if he can defend Chet like that, the way he did in those final 6 minutes of the fourth quarter, next game, then I love the Pacers' chances. Seriously, I do. So Miles Turner didn't score it very well, didn't shoot the ball very well, but I did think that defensively he was pretty impactful with those 5 blocks. He only had 9 points on 3 of 11 shooting, but I don't know. Like, there's some people who are going to get really torn up about that, and they're going to talk about how terrible Miles Turner is. He's like the 5th best player on this roster. Like, the 5th best player on your team isn't going to be great every single night. He's not. But defensively, which is where I think he's the most important to this Pacers team, because they don't really have another center on the roster who can play defense. Like, Tony Bradley's not defending the rim. Thomas Bryant plays hard, but there's a reason why he only played 3 minutes in game 3, and there's a reason why he committed 2 fouls in those 3 minutes. It's because they went right at him. Now, I will say the one thing about Miles Turner that did bug me, and if people wanted to complain about this, I would fully understand it. In the first half, he had 3 switches where he had a guard on him, whether it was Cason Wallace or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or Alex Caruso or whoever, and he was 0 for 3. He didn't score on any of them, and he took 3 shots. He even got blocked once by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So that is a little frustrating, and I guess if people wanted to be upset and they wanted to complain about that, I would get it. But I ultimately, he was really impactful down the stretch, and they don't win that game without him. Andrew Nembhard wasn't great offensively. Only took 5 shots. He didn't have the ball as much in game 3 as he did in games 1 and 2. He scored 8 points, turned it over 3 times, but man, he was good. He was so good last night. Just defended his butt off, fought over every screen, was just annoying and bothered Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Drew a foul on SGA like 7 seconds into the game because he was in his grill and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander didn't like it. And so he pushed him. And there's a play in, I think it was the third quarter, where Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is like going to the rim and he gets fouled during his gather. And you see Andrew Nembhard run over and just like grab his arm and yank him. That way he can't complete the end one. He fouled him again. You know, they can only call 1 foul. They can't call 2. And so Nembhard comes over and he fouls Shai Gilgeous-Alexander a second time. And then our guy, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, walks over to the official and he starts to complain about it. And then Andrew Nembhard walks over and he's got like his hands on his hips, you know, and he's like, really, Shai, you're going to complain about this? Really, man? Like, come on, you know, blah, 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 blah. And he was just in Shai's head a little bit. You can tell Andrew Nembhard really bothers Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He does, man. He bothers him. Like, as soon as Nembhard would go to the bench and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander would have to score on Ben Shepherd or Aaron Nesmith or whoever, you could just tell, like, he looked more comfortable. I know that Andrew Nembhard didn't light it up offensively, but he was so good defensively in that game. Like, the Pacers didn't have to send a ton of help. That was a big deal. Aaron Wiggins and Alex Caruso scored a bunch in game 2 because the Pacers had to help. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander beat them with his ability to pass because he's a very good facilitator and he's a really good passer. And that didn't happen last night. The defense played not only by Andrew Nembhard, but also by Ben Shepherd in the game last night was huge. It's a large part of why the Pacers won. Here is Coach Carlisle after the game talking about the defensive effort on the league MVP.
Well, they're giving it their absolute full capacity effort all the time. We have to look at the fouls. Maybe there's some that are avoidable. But look, with him, he's the MVP. You just gotta try to make it difficult, and you know, and we just got to keep platooning people onto him, and try to keep our guys fresh somehow.
Coach Carlisle right there talking about the defense from this Pacers team and their defense more specifically on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, talking about Andrew Nembhard and Ben Shepherd just competing their butts off, trying to defend that guy. And their defense on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander coming off screens was so much better. In game 2, he was splitting screens and getting to the rim, and like there just wasn't much resistance whenever he would come off those screens. And whereas last night, there was, Tim Legler, he was on Dan's show yesterday, and he was talking about how whenever the Pacers have defended Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, their shoulders have been like square, like directly facing the backcourt. And he's like, that's not good because then you give Shai Gilgeous-Alexander options. Whereas if you like turn a little bit and you make him go right or you make him go left, then it allows your help to be properly positioned. And that's what they did in game 3 last night. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander would come off those screens and Haliburton wouldn't really let him get wide. And I thought that was a big deal. Like Tyrese Haliburton, he was never the primary defender on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but the Thunder want to involve Tyrese Haliburton as often as possible. They want to make him defend as much as possible. And because of that, whoever Tyrese Haliburton was defending would set a lot of the screens on Nembhard or Ben Shepherd. And so Haliburton, I thought, did a very good job of staying in front of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander long enough to allow Andrew Nembhard to fight over the screen and get back into the play. Here is Tyrese Haliburton after the game talking about having to defend the screener for whoever, having to defend the screener for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and just kind of the importance of what he did on defense in that game.
Yeah, I think with Shai, he's so good. He's so slippery, in between those gaps. It's like he splits screens that you're like, I don't know how he's doing that. And I think in game 2 specifically, if you watch a lot of my coverages, I did a poor job of being at the level. I was back and then he could come off and he had so much space, and now he's kind of manipulating me with in and out, or he can just split and throw through. I thought that was something we really had to clean up coming into today. And you're consistently trying to mix things up, because if you give any good player the same look over and over, it can be really tough. So, whatever it is, a show at the level, I just can't be flat. If I'm flat, there's nothing I can do with him coming downhill. So, just consistently trying to grow. And as you know, it never is like always perfect. Sometimes you got to figure it out. And, I think the big thing that makes it easier is when Drew is really blowing through, those screens. And, I think more times than not, he's getting held and having to fight through, and it's the finals, it's physical basketball. But I thought he did a great job of really fighting through. And if I can just hold him for a second, give him more time to get back square, it makes things easier. So just got to do a better job of being at the level, presenting myself as much as I can. Cause if I'm back, he's a really tough cover.
He is a really tough cover. Tyrese Haliburton right there talking about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and just kind of his role in trying to slow him down whenever he was defending the screener. And he did a really good job. That was by far the worst game of the series we've seen from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander so far. They'll adjust. He'll be better in game 4. He's going to be better. Okay? You can just take that to the bank. They're going to make adjustments. They're going to figure out ways to kind of counter whatever the Pacers did defensively in game 3. Watching these two coaches kind of go back and forth has been just, it's a lot of fun. It is. So while I do expect for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to be better, not convinced that his sidekicks will be. Chet Holmgren, I've talked about him a little bit, right? He gets off to that hot start, scores 13 points in that first quarter. He finished the game with 20 points. Okay. Jalen Williams had 26, by far his best offensive game of the series. He was their leading scorer. He was finally good. And the Thunder lost. If you told me before the game that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Chet Holmgren, and Jalen Williams would all score 20 points or more, and that the Thunder would shoot 45% from 3, I would have thought the Pacers got blown out. But they didn't. They won the game. And they not only won the game, but they held the Thunder to under 110 points. No one else for the Thunder really scored except for Isaiah Joe. He hit 2 threes, and Lou Dort was 4 or 5 from 3. The defense from the Pacers was amazing. Every Thunder player had to work for everything, and they dialed up the pressure. They pressed 94 feet, and they turned the Thunder over. They won the turnover battle. They forced 19 Thunder turnovers, and the Pacers only committed 14 themselves. That's big. That's part of how the Thunder beat teams. They just, they turn you over a bunch, and they don't turn it over at all. The Pacers didn't get beat up on the glass either. Sure, they gave up 9 offensive rebounds, but the Pacers had 7. So the difference wasn't enough to tilt the game in the Thunder's favor. The defense from the Pacers was great. They were outstanding on both ends of the floor. The defense was so impressive, though. I talked, to kind of open this, I talked about Miles Turner and the defense that he played in the final 6 minutes. Listen to this stat. Oklahoma City made 1 field goal in the final 5 minutes and 57 seconds, and it wasn't like they were missing good looks. The Pacers closed the game on the defensive end of the floor, and that's not something that they would have been able to do last year. Outstanding effort from them, outstanding defense. They got to do it two more times, though. 2 more times. And the Pacers had to win that game last night. And I don't mean it in terms of, if you lose game 3, then you're down 2-1 and you give home court back. No, that's not what I mean. They had to win that game last night because you can't waste all of the performances that they got. When you get 27 points from Benedict Mathurin, you have to win that game. You do. When you get the defensive efforts and the energy boost that you got from TJ McConnell, you have to win that game. When you get the defensive effort from, Andrew Nembhard and Ben Shepherd that holds the MVP of the league to 24 points on 9 of 10 shooting, and he turns it over 6 times, and he only has 4 assists, you have to win that game. You do. You have to win the games when your non-stars go crazy and the star for the opposing team struggles. The Thunder won game 2 because they had to win it. Because they probably aren't going to get 20 points from Alex Caruso again. And they probably aren't going to get 18 points from Aaron Wiggins again. For the Pacers, I love Benedict Mathurin. The dude was awesome last night. You're probably not going to get 27 points from him again. TJ McConnell probably isn't going to steal 3 inbound passes again. Then again, he might. You would have thought that the Thunder learned their lesson after the first one, but they didn't. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander probably isn't only going to score 24 points on 45% shooting from the field again. The Pacers won a game that they had to win because they probably aren't going to get performances like that again. They also probably aren't going to shoot 33% from 3 again. They won that game while only shooting 33% from 3. Big time game from the Pacers, and just really, really impressive. Ross asked me on YouTube how my wife's birthday was yesterday. Ross, my wife is out of town. She's been gone all week. That's why I have a beard. I guess kind of a beard. So I haven't had to shave. That's kind of nice. So yeah, she's out of town right now. She'll be back tomorrow afternoon. And so we'll go out, we'll do dinner, and we'll celebrate and do all that stuff this weekend. So yeah, Ross, we have not celebrated my wife's birthday quite yet. I did buy her some things. I gave her her big gift before she left. She really wanted a new air fryer, so we got one, and I got her some shoes too. So yeah, there you go. Yeah, so happy birthday again to my wife, who's not listening because she is pretty much in Ohio right now. Anyway, when we come back, pull out your phone, 317-228-1430. We are giving away Holiday World tickets right now here on The Real Jonathan Smith Show. Been teasing it all show. Okay, we will mail them to you. Call in 317-228-1430. We will give out those tickets during this break. When we come back here in about 4 minutes or so, we're going to get into Tyrese Haliburton and how good he was last night. When we come back here in about 4 minutes, call in 317-228-1430 for your chance to win Holiday World tickets.
If it's in today's sports world, it's here. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show. Congrats to Wayne Grumblin for winning our Holiday World tickets. If you want them, we're going to give away more tomorrow. So make sure you're tuned in tomorrow for your chance to win those. Big thanks to Holiday World, Splash and Safari for sponsoring today's show. Before I get to Tyrese Haliburton, I had a tweet yesterday. And do you ever tweet or say something to someone and you think that you're going to get a reaction and then you don't? That's what happened to me. So my wife's gone, and so I'm just kind of bored at home because, I've got a wife who likes to go out and do things, and that's just not really me. Like, I like being at home, so I've been going on all these walks, and it's been good. So I was on my walk yesterday, and I was thinking about Anthony Richardson, who's hurt his shoulder. Kent Sterling just posted a video of him doing what he can, and it's not really very much. I think he's just kind of, he's not even throwing the football. He's just, doing whatever. And I was thinking about him. I was like, you know what? Anthony Richardson is the Angel Reese of the NFL. And I don't mean all the off-the-court nonsense. That is not what I mean at all when I say that. Angel Reese was the 7th overall pick. Anthony Richardson was the 4th overall pick. There's a lot of hype, a lot of excitement for both of the players coming out of college. And then they show up in their rookie seasons, and they can't hit the layups. They can't hit the easy ones in any way, shape, or form. And then they have an entire offseason, and they come back for their second season, and neither one of them got better. And that's problematic. I don't know. I thought it was good. Anyway, not as good as Tyrese Haliburton was in Game 3. He was amazing. He was aggressive from the jump. He was the best player on the floor. He did everything that you expect for Tyrese Haliburton to do, right? He shot it well, 9 of 17 from the floor. That is a great number of shots for him when he's aggressive, when he's getting up, somewhere between 15 and 20 shots a night. I feel really good about the Pacers and their chances to win games. Here's Coach Carlisle after the game talking about Tyrese Haliburton and his performance.
Yeah, terrific. I mean, he look at every game. You're going to have to make adjustments against this defense. I mean, there's just going to be different looks. You're going to have different high-level defenders on you. You're going to see some different coverage stuff. It's going to be constantly changing. And so I thought his approach tonight was exactly what it needed to be. A combination of spatial awareness and aggression, and a real good feel for aggression to score, along with getting his teammates involved at the right times. And so, he was terrific.
Coach Carlisle right there talking about Tyrese Haliburton, saying he was terrific and how he, scored and assisted, and his spatial awareness was really good, and really, really just a great performance from Tyrese Haliburton. I love the shot chart. I feel like this is a theme whenever Tyrese Haliburton plays well. The shot chart looks good. He took 17 shots. 8 of them were threes. That's a good number for him. He made 4 of them. He's a career 39% three-point shooter, so I want him to get those threes up. He had it rolling, and it's because he got established early. It was the first game of the series where I felt like the Pacers offense as a whole, but more specifically Tyrese Haliburton, was just consistently in rhythm. They were consistently in rhythm. Making shots early helps you find your rhythm. And Haliburton started 2 of 3 from the floor. He had a floater. Then he hit his first 3-point attempt. And when you start that well, it's easier to want to take more shots. And it led to a very aggressive version of Tyrese Haliburton. I loved his shot chart. It wasn't only threes and layups. He wasn't, 2015 James Harden on us. He didn't only chuck a whole bunch of threes. He can do that sometimes. Every shot he took, except for his first shot, didn't feel forced. Everything kind of came within the natural flow of how he likes to play. When he's playing naturally, he's going to shoot from all 3 levels. He took 8 threes, of which he was 4 of 8. He took 5 mid-range shots, of which he was 2 of 5. And he took 4 shots in the paint, of which he was 3 of 4. Okay. And those are his best games. His best games are the ones where he's scoring at all three levels. Okay, he played by far his best game of the series last night. And on yesterday's show, I said that the most important number for the Pacers was going to be Tyrese Haliburton's assist number. I said if he got to 10 assists or more, then the Pacers would win. He had 11. And every part of his game was open. You know, when Tyrese Haliburton has 10 assists or more, it points to the Pacers doing all of the things that make them the Pacers. Okay, like they were so impressive. Okay, and because they were who they've always been or who they've been all year. You know, Tyrese Haliburton having 10 assists or more points to him being aggressive and getting into the paint. The Pacers had a ton of paint touches last night. The 10 assists or more points to the Pacers getting out and running. That was the fastest paced game of the series so far. Okay, I mean, he was really impressive. It also points, obviously, to Pacers not named Tyrese Haliburton making shots. And this is the Pacers' best shooting game of the series because they got in the paint so much and because they got so many more layups. Like, they shot 52% from the field for the game, and they only shot 33% from three. I mean, it was just a very, very impressive performance from him, and you can't say enough about his ability to get into the lane last night, and it led to a ton of good looks for the Indiana Pacers. You know, if you told me before the game last night that the Pacers would only shoot 33% from three and the Thunder would shoot 45% from three, I would have thought that the Pacers got blown out, but that didn't happen because the Pacers broke the paint as often as they did. Incredibly impressive performance from them. In game two, 40 of their 82 shots came from three. Last night, 27 of their 85 shots came from three. That is a much better ratio for them. And it only happened because they were able to consistently break the paint. It's the only reason why it happened. And yeah, they just looked so much better. And a large part of it was because Tyrese Haliburton was actually aggressive trying to score. You know, he was engaged on both ends of the floor. And it wasn't just the offense that I thought was really good last night. He had 9 rebounds. 8 of them were on defense. And that allows the Pacers to get out and run a bit more. Because when Obi Toppin grabs a rebound, or Siakam or Miles Turner grabs a rebound, like they have to take two or 3 seconds to find, Haliburton or Nembhard. Whereas when Haliburton grabs it, he can just go. Everyone can just go. And the Thunder have tried so hard in this series to get back in transition and to not allow for the Pacers to get out and run and score, on the fast break. And last night, the Pacers had 17 fast break points. The Thunder only had 10. The Pacers scored 21 points off of the 19 Thunder turnovers. The Thunder scored 14 points off of the 14 Pacer turnovers. And I think a large part of that is Haliburton grabbing the rebounds, getting steals that lead to breakaways. He was so good, not only on offense, but rebounding. And he had 1 offensive rebound, and I think it was my favorite play of the night from him. Pacers are up 3. The Thunder defense had a great possession. They kind of jumbled the Pacers up. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is all over Tyrese Haliburton. Haliburton chucks a 3 because the shot clock is about to hit 0. Shot goes up. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander just stands there. Meanwhile, Tyrese Haliburton breaks for the offensive rebound, gets it, finds Nembhard, who then hits a mid-range jumper to put the Pacers up by 5. It was a huge play. It extended the lead, and it showed the amount of efforts and intensity that the Pacers played with. Okay, he was awesome last night on offense, rebounding, and he played excellent defense. He's just so smart. When you're 6'6" with long arms and you're smart and you're in the right position, and you compete the way that Haliburton did defensively last night, then you're going to have maybe not good defensive games, but you're going to have good defensive possessions. Like you're going to be good enough on defense to give your team a chance to win. And last night, he picked off 2 passes that led to easy buckets. He only had 2 steals, but it felt like he had a lot more. Like he was just in the passing lanes, deflecting balls out of bounds whenever he got switched on a Shea Gilgeous-Alexander or Jalen Williams. He just competed his butt off. He's come a long way defensively from last year to this year. And that's what great players do. They find ways to get better. Tyrese Haliburton's defensive improvement from last year to this year is why the Indiana Pacers are 2 wins away from being NBA champions. Like, do you remember what Boston did to him last year? They put him in every switch. They made him, whoever he was defending set every screen, and they just wore him down in those 2 games. And this summer, to his credit, he said, nope, not happening again. And his defense has been so important. And if the Pacers win the whole thing, a large part of it is going to be because of Tyrese Haliburton and his improvement on defense. Now, they're 2 wins away. 2 wins against the Thunder's a lot. They need to win game 4. If they go back to Oklahoma City and it's tied 2-2, it's going to be really tough. Because winning 2 out of 3 with only one home game against a better team, it's just not easy. So they need to go back to Oklahoma City up 3-1. If they can win Friday night, then that'll be huge. It'll be tough, though, because the Thunder haven't lost back-to-back games since April when they were resting players to get ready for the playoffs. Before that, they lost back-to-back games in November. Game 4. That game's going to be so intense. It's going to be so much fun tomorrow night. I'm glad that there's only 1 day off in between. I felt like with the 2 days off between games 1 and 2, it felt like some of the momentum that the Pacers had from that game 1 win, it just didn't really feel like it was there. It'll be there tomorrow night. That building is going to feel different in every way, shape, and form. And if you can go, you absolutely need to go. Seriously, you do. It's just a lot of fun watching the Pacers last night. When we come back, we're going to wrap it up talking a little bit of Benedict Mathurin and TJ McConnell, because look, there were a lot of Pacer players who contributed. I feel like I've ran through like 6 or 7 different guys and the way that they impacted the game, but McConnell and Mathurin off the bench were outstanding. Yeah, and it was just a really big game from both of them. My thoughts on McConnell and Mathurin and their impacts on the game when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
may, one day, be a must-listen for sports enthusiasts.
Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt.
The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you head over there and subscribe. Maybe you're watching on Twitter, _ Jonathan Smith. Maybe you're listening on that Indy Sports Ticket app. Maybe you're listening just, 14:30 a.m. on the radio. I appreciate it no matter how you're tuning in. I also appreciate the Pacers and the effort that they played with last night. Just balls to the wall for the entire game. I mean, they just went at it from start to finish. And it wasn't just the starters. It wasn't like Haliburton, who was awesome. But it wasn't like he went for 40. And that's why the Pacers won. Like, he had a normal good game for Tyrese Haliburton. Like 21 and 11 for Tyrese. That's not an A-plus game. Like, an A-plus game would be, when he had 30, 32, and 15 with no turnovers in game 4 against the Knicks. Like, that is an A-plus Tyrese Haliburton game. But, 21 and 11, 4 turnovers, that's like an A- game for Tyrese Haliburton. The reason why they won that game is because everyone just did what you expect them to do, especially the guys off the bench. Now, I do this after every Pacers game. Who's the third guy? Who's the guy for the Pacers who, isn't named Tyrese Haliburton or Pascal Siakam? That's just a dude. And everyone's going to point to Benedict Mathurin, who scored 27 points off the bench, 9 of 12 from the field, hit a big 3 to give the Pacers the lead with 8 minutes to go. He comes off that screen. Chet Holmgren, man, that's too much space. Let me hit this in your face. And he did. And Pacers went up by 2, and they didn't give the lead back after that point. He was outstanding. You could also argue for TJ McConnell, who was also great off the bench. Both of those guys led the charge, especially in that very important second quarter stretch where the Pacers are resting Haliburton and the Thunder are resting Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And the Pacers have to win those minutes, and they did last night because of those two dudes. Here is Coach Carlisle after the game talking about the impact that Benedict Mathurin and TJ McConnell had on the game.
Yeah, I mean, those guys were tremendous, and TJ just brought a competitive will to the game. Mathurin jumped in there and immediately was aggressive and got the ball in the basket. And, look, this is the kind of team that we are. We need everybody to be ready. It's not always going to be exactly the same guys that are stepping up with scoring and stuff like that. But, this is how we got to do it. And we got to do it as a team, and we got to make it as hard as possible on them.
Coach Carlisle right there talking about Mathurin and McConnell and how they both stepped up. And now this is who this Pacers team is. You never know who it's going to be. Some nights it's Mathurin, some nights it's Nembhard, sometimes it's Toppin, sometimes it's McConnell, sometimes it's all of them. And I want to start with Benedict Mathurin because he did everything. He made mid-range jumpers. He got to the rim and he got fouled. He was 7 of 8 from the foul line. He finished at the rim, was 2 of 3 from 3. Like, he did everything. And just what a performance from such a young dude, 22 years old, in his first playoff run. And he wasn't a part of it last year because he tore his labrum. Obviously, he was with the team and all those things. And, I was really impressed with how he scored within the flow of the offense. He's scoring off cutting to the rim. He's, 3 dribbles or less, getting to a spot, making shots. If it's not there, he's giving the ball up. It was really impressive. And I thought that the thing that impressed me the most from that Benedict Mathurin performance last night was something that he didn't do. There was something he didn't do that wowed me more than anything else. He never took a heat check. He had every right to take one. The dude was 9 of 12 from the field. If he'd taken a 30-foot 3 at one point or like a tough step back, I'd have been annoyed. But, I just know that there's a part of me that would have been like, you know what? The dude hasn't really missed yet. I get it. But he never did it. And that is a major sign of growth from him because, he had a reputation as a bit of a chucker at one point. But every shot he took last night, he was in control, scored off. He scored off cutting to the rim too, which is really big for him, right? Because when he first showed up here in Indiana, really the only way he scored was by creating his own shot. But now he's cutting to the rim and he's curling off screens, and just a really impressive game from him last night. And he needed to be good because the reason why or part of why the Pacers lost game 2 was because the Thunder bench was significantly better than the Pacers bench was. And, game 2, it was the bench game for the Thunder. Last night, it was the bench game, but for the Pacers. They completely flipped that script, and it was led by Benedict Mathurin scoring 27 points in 22 minutes. Okay. The Pacers bench outscored the Thunder's bench 49-18. And, if they do that 2 more times, they're probably going to win the NBA Finals. So I think I would agree that Mathurin was the third guy last night, because when you're the leading scorer, you kind of have to be. But I have to talk about TJ McConnell because his energy was infectious. I feel like he was every bit as important to the Pacers as Benedict Mathurin was. But before I jump into TJ McConnell and his impact on the game, here is Coach Carlisle telling a story about Benedict Mathurin last year not being able to play in the playoffs and just kind of how he dealt with that.
Yeah, I mean, he was with the team. He just wasn't playing. And he took a lot of notes, a lot of mental notes, and he may have written some things down, but I do know that, after he sustained the injury, it was either in February or early March. You can order these calendars that start on a specific day and then they count days. And so, I think it was Dr. Elitraj did the surgery. And so there was a calendar that was sitting in our training room, and every day he would come in and take one off and take one off. And he was counting the days down to being cleared at sometime in August, and then being able to begin training camp. It began 5-on-5 with our guys in September, and then to begin training camp, really with his eyes firmly set on an opportunity in the playoffs. And so, he's put in a lot of work to be ready for these moments. And tonight he was an absolute major factor.
Coach Carlisle right there talking about Benedict Mathurin and just the work he put in the offseason, dealing with, rehabbing a labrum tear last year during the playoffs. And the guy's just always locked in. Always locked in. And that is such an important thing. That feels like the Pacers in general, Siakam was talking to Scott Van Pelt after the game, and he was obviously excited that they won, but they weren't rejoicing. Benedict Mathurin after the game was excited that they won, but he wasn't over the moon. He told Scott Van Pelt after the game, he's like, look, I'll celebrate when I have the Larry O'Brien in my hands. And that's a great place for this Pacers team to be. TJ McConnell, first bench player since 1974 to have 10 points, 5 assists, and 5 steals in the NBA Finals. He was amazing. He did all the things that you expect for TJ McConnell to do. He ran the baseline so well. He's a great interior passer. Found so many guys cutting to the rim, or he'd grab an offensive rebound and he'd find someone else. He had the one where the ball came off the rim and it bounced to him and he jumped in the air and he caught it for the offensive rebound, and he made this little touch pass to Benedict Mathurin underneath the basket. He was really good. His biggest impact, though, was with his energy. Here is Tyrese Haliburton after the game talking about TJ McConnell and how important that little burst of energy is that he gives this Pacers team.
Yeah, I think his energy is unbelievable. You guys know he's definitely a crowd favorite. I joke with him. I call him the Great White Hope. He does a great job of bringing energy in this building, and I think people feed off that. And he had a couple unbelievable steals. I think in the series like this, what's so important is the margins. You got to win in the margins. It's not necessarily who can make the most shots or anything. It's taking care of the ball, rebounding, little things like that. I thought he does a great job of just giving us energy plays consistently. and getting downhill and operating. I mean, nobody operates on the baseline like that guy, so I thought he did a great job of consistently getting there and just making hustle play after hustle play, and sticking with it. And I thought we did a great job of just feeding off of what he was doing. He's been like a big brother to me since I've gotten here. And, a guy, you look at TJ McConnell and like his story is unbelievable, so, I just enjoy being able to play alongside him, and the energy he gives his teammates and this building is a lot of fun.
Tyrese Haliburton right there talking about TJ McConnell and just the energy that he brings and that he plays with. And I really thought that you could really see it on defense more than anything. I mean, the dude had 5 steals. 3 of them were off inbound passes, which is still just incredible to me. And it speaks to the kind of player that TJ McConnell is. Like, the dude's always locked in. He is locked into everything that's going on for the entire time that he's on the floor. And look, he's going to play like 15 to 20 minutes a night, so it's easier to do that. But I'm sure that those guys kind of check out mentally as they're running back up the floor. We saw the Thunder check out mentally on those inbound passes. That's why McConnell had 3 steals, because he's always locked in, and you have to be that way in the NBA Finals. And he took advantage of the lackadaisical going through the motion passes from the Oklahoma City Thunder, right? And the last inbound steal was incredible, right? He steals this inbound pass from Alex Caruso. Let me back up. Pacers are down 95-93. They come down the floor. They make a 3. Alex Caruso, so now it's not 95-93. Alex Caruso tries to pass it in. McConnell leaps in the air, snatches it out the air, and then he lays the ball in. 95-95. Pacers go in like they go on a 5-0 run in like a 4-second span. Okay, and then of course, the whole crowd goes crazy. McConnell scored, facilitated, defended, he pushed the pace. And that is something that I don't think is being talked about enough. When Tyrese Haliburton goes to the bench, the Pacers slow down a bit. Not last night. TJ McConnell made sure that the pace stayed up. He was every bit as important to that win last night as Benedict Mathurin was, even though he didn't score as many points. His ability to make plays on defense, his ability to, he shot the ball pretty well in that game as well. I mean, he did have 10 points. He was only 3 of 8 from the field, but it felt like he was better than that. He was 4 of 4 from the foul line. He was big time, and you need games like this from your role players if you want any chance to win, especially against a team like the Thunder that are really good. Last role player, really quick, that I want to mention, Ben Shepherd. He gave them a great 18 minutes off the bench. He defended well. He showed some stuff that we didn't really get to see from him too much during the regular season. Like, he would catch and he would attack closeouts really well. Like, he had, his first bucket. He catches it, pump fakes, 1 dribble pull up right at the foul line, money. Or I guess the left elbow, money. Later in the game, Isaiah Hartenstein closes out to him. He pump fakes, gets even with him, and he's going left, and he brings it back to his right hand, and he had this really awkward and tough finish over Hartenstein. He only scored 4 points, but I thought defensively he was really good. I thought he did a good job making it tough on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or Jalen Williams. He had the one possession where he was just in Jalen Williams' chest, and he just took the ball from him. It was a really impressive game from him as well. Pacers last night, like, you can't say enough about how well they played. And hopefully they can maintain that tomorrow. Make sure you're tuned in tomorrow to The Real Jonathan Smith Show. We're going to give away more tickets to Holiday World, and we're going to preview Game 4, biggest game, because every game is the biggest game in the history of the Indiana Pacers now that they're up 2-1. They don't have to win tomorrow night, but man, it'd be really nice if they did. If they could take that 3-1 lead going back to Oklahoma City. Still waiting on the Aaron Nesmith game. Hopefully we get it in this next one. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to my show. Come back tomorrow, 10 to noon, but keep your radio where it's at. Don't touch that dial. The Dan Dockett Show is coming your way next. He's got a lot of thoughts on the game. He was there last night, so he's going to have thoughts. Thank you again for tuning in. I will talk to you tomorrow starting at 10 a.m.